We are so honored tonight, not only to host Catherine Adel West, the debut author of Saving Ruby King, but that she is in conversation with LaTasha Fields, longtime educator and president of the Wisconsin State Reading Association. I am thrilled to even be a remote part of this evening. Please give them a big hand. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Daniel. I appreciate that. Nice, warm welcome. Good evening, everyone. I am so excited because I got a chance to read Catherine Adele's book, and it was amazing. So, Catherine, I'm glad that you are able to join us this evening and that I get to talk to you. I feel so special.
Oh, you well, I feel special too after that introduction from Daniel, and I know your credentials. So the fact that you know words and you know books and you still want to talk to me, I don't take it lightly. So thank you, LaTasha. I really, really appreciate it, and I'm excited to get started. What do you want to talk about first?
Absolutely. So, from what I understand, this is your debut novel. And I just guess the first thing I want to know, like, what inspired you to write this novel about Ruby King?
Yeah, so this actually was supposed to be a short story. Um, and it was really supposed to just be this way of understanding the relationship that I had with my father. We love each other, right? But parent relationships are complicated. And when you add that layer of like race and then religion, like there's a whole other set of like issues that seem to come to bear. And I was trying to find a way to reconcile the relationship that we had versus the one that I wanted us to have. And the way that I was trying to do this was through writing. So it was initially supposed to be a short story. I was at a wedding. I was telling a friend, I was like, yeah, I'm writing this short story. And she's like, that should be a book. And because I have not one, but 2 degrees in journalism, I'm like, how hard is it to write a book? So hard. Why did I think it was supposed to be easy? It's not. That was so stupid of me to think that writing a book was going to be easy. So I took about 5 years on and off to write the rough draft of Saving Ruby King. I had a lot of people support and give me like really good ideas as to what to do and how to go. And because like I said, I've never written a book before. So like I didn't know about like the mechanics and the craft of it. And I learned it as I went along. And I came up with this book, and it was really just supposed to be about a relationship between like a father, a black father, and a black daughter, and it just morphed into like this part mystery, part literary fiction, part like urban fiction, kind of amalgam of genres, and that was kind of it. I didn't think it would like be published. I didn't think that I could get like literary representation. Like I didn't think I'd be talking to somebody like you. I don't know why all of this is happening, but I really am happy that it is, and I'm so humbled and honored that so many people have taken a liking to Saving Ruby King. Like I'm just blown away.
Yes, well, I'm so glad that the short story was even a thought for you, and how large it's grown is really amazing. Something that really struck me in your book that was different, that I thought was unique, is how you personified the Black church. And just being, it just took me back to being a little Black girl. I'm from Gary, Indiana, so not far from Chicago, going to church with my grandfather and just thinking, like, what if the walls really could talk, you know? And so that really drew me into your book. And I was just wondering, like, what was the significance of that, or just your process in thinking about personifying the church in the way that you did?
Yeah, so a lot of people tell me that they're like, oh, did you ever read The Mothers by Britt Bennett? And then I'm like, no. And then I feel bad because I didn't know that you had a similar mechanic in The Mothers, where it was kind of like this chorus of, Black women, kind of this chorus of Black women who kind of told this, their story in their own way. And I hate this, I don't read a lot when I'm writing. I just tend to read, before or after. What happened was, in a very, very, very early draft of Saving Ruby King, which used to be called Potter's Wheel, I let a friend read it, and his name is Luke Salazar, and he said, you know what would be a good idea? If you made the church, even if the church had its own point of view. And I said, bro, like that is a brilliant idea. So like I took it and ran with it. It allowed me to tell the background stories of the characters without doing like too much exposition in terms of like a bunch of dialogue or like a bunch of like, expository paragraphs. And it also allowed me to scratch this itch where like I love to write in timeless classical ways, which you cannot do if your characters are like 20 something Black women. They don't talk like this, right? So I was able to, get my kind of fix to write like, a lot of the people that I, admired literary wise. So like Charles Dickens and Oscar Wilde and Octavia Butler and James Baldwin, I was able to kind of create my own kind of voice using all of these other literary influences to tell like the background stories of all of these people and do it in an interesting way. And I'm just so happy that a lot of people took to it. I didn't realize how popular Calvary would be, and I'm happy I didn't botch that, put it like that. I'm so happy.
Absolutely. And so, of course, I felt like throughout the story, I'm just cheering Ruby on, just hoping, wishing the best for her. And I like that you made the events more realistic. It wasn't like, and they all lived happily ever after, but there were really a lot of challenges that the characters faced. And I'm wondering, do you have a character that you really resonated with, or that was your favorite character, so to speak, as you think about all those characters in the book?
Yeah, I really, really enjoyed writing Lebanon. Um, I enjoy writing like bad guys, even though I never really thought of him as a bad guy, but I enjoy antagonists from books to television and movies. I root for the bad guy. Don't know why. I'll talk to a therapist about it later. But I tend to, really enjoy bad guys and their motivations. And I really wanted to get down into like why Lebanon did what he did, but still somehow show compassion without justifying any of his actions. Because like what he did was wrong, unequivocally, hands down. But like I just needed to show why he did what he did. Like you can have a bad guy to just be bad, but it's more interesting to know why. Like if you look at the movie Black Panther, Eric Killmonger is a bad guy, right? But morally, he actually wins the argument of why he needed to do what he needed to do. The thing is, what he did and the way he did it was wrong. But morally, he was right in why he why he pursued the avenues in which he pursued. So with Lebanon, it's like, does he do bad things? Yes. Is he a bad person? That is a more complicated question to answer. And that's why I enjoyed writing him so much.
Yes, and that's exactly what I felt throughout. I'm like, okay, there's always a reason why people are the way they are, and you really developed him in a way that exposed the complexity of his character and how that transitioned to the type of father that he became and the type of husband that he was. And so very interesting. I mean, just as I was reading, I was actually just thinking about just real life things because those characters were that live for me. And so I really enjoyed, like, there were so many themes, I think, in your book, just, friendship, love, loss, redemption, spirituality. And I literally had to take out a piece of paper because I'm like, oh, so Ruby's grandmother is so and so, and just to line up all of the different pieces. And I could probably understand why it took 5 years because you were just kind of, going back and forth and back and forth in terms of what happened in the past and what happened now. And so I'm just wondering, I know you said that it was really inspired by your relationship with your father, but in terms of the events, because I know a lot of times authors write events that they've experienced or that they know people have experienced. Is that similar in this case?
In some instances, yes. And actually, if you look at like the very beginning pages, there's a family tree in the beginning because I knew, and my brother actually designed the family tree. So it really was a family affair. Like, I knew what I was doing was complicated in terms of all of the familial ties, the friendship ties, um, and in terms of being inspired by real life events, mainly things in the church were things that, you know, I had experienced. So the two ladies in the church that gossip when they act like they're supposed to be reading the Bible, we all know women like that. We all know women like that, like for real, without, you know, having you know, Layla and her little big brother, literally based off of me and my brother. My brother is a tall, bald, highly intelligent, very wise artist who is able to kind of like see through what people say to like what's actually going on. I have the pastor father, I have the first lady mom. It was just one of those things, you know, where I wanted to bring to life, you know, the family that I have, but, you know, slightly different. Some of the heavier things, there are things that I know that have happened to other people. And I just wanted to bring to light those issues because a lot of times those things, especially in the African American community, you know, domestic abuse, sexual assault, those things get kind of swept under the rug, or we don't talk about them. Goes on in your house, stays in your house. Like, and this is a problem. The only way we're going to break these cycles of violence, break these chains of generational trauma, are by talking about these things and calling these things out for what they are. And this book is kind of a siren in order to do that. And I hope this book does inspire somebody to talk about, like, these are the things that happened to me, and this is like the result, and like, how can I better myself and better my situation, and how do I do that? Like, one of the first steps is like by telling your story and speaking your truth. And, you know, I just wanted Saving Your Be King to kind of be a bastion for that type of action.
Thank you so much. And I just want to take a moment to pause and let everyone know, if you have questions for Miss Catherine Adel West, please, you can either drop them in the chat or the Q&A, and we will do our best to get to those questions. There was a passage, and I did share with Catherine that there were a lot. I mean, you should see the dog ears that I have in this book, because a lot of the things that you talk about are just so timely. And I know this is a relatively new novel, but to think about the past 5 years and just the things that we're facing in our country in terms of racial injustice and Black Lives Matter is just, you were really clever in integrating that into the text. And on page 115, if y'all have your books, there is a passage. You don't have to read it, but I can read it if you want me to. But I just want to talk about.
Yeah. Let me read it, because Tasha, you've been so wonderful. Let me just bear with me real quick.
Okay, so someone has the book but haven't read it. You're gonna want to read it. I'll try not to spoil it then.
This is not going to be a spoiled passage at all. It won't spoil any of the things, I promise.
If you have your books, and Catherine was reminding me, this is like in the church, you know, and the pastor says, turn to chapter 6, Layla. Hello. Chapter 6, verse 115. No, page 115, towards the bottom, where it starts with if we're, and then it ends at destruction. If you have your books, you can follow along. But if you don't mind just reading and speaking to just your thoughts and including that piece. And this was like right after Layla had talked to Christy, I believe, and she was just kind of hanging out and noticing some things around the church.
Exactly. If we're to truly look at ourselves and not our pain, if we realized our value and spent less time captive to hasty perceptions, if we saved ourselves, what could we become? They fear our skin, we fear our power. It's a perfect storm for it's a perfect storm for destruction, our destruction. Truth be told, when I was writing that, I mean, like, if you think about it, racism, racial injustice, police brutality, white supremacy. These are things we faced since our ancestors stepped foot on these shores. So when I was writing this book 5 years ago, those issues were already prevalent. They were prevalent when I was a baby, when you were a baby. They were prevalent when our parents were babies. So like, these aren't issues that are new to us. These are issues that we've been dealing with, you know, all of our lives. And so I needed a book. I needed to write or to put in this book like why it is or why possibly we are the way that we are in terms of, you know, yeah, like the self-destructive pattern that some of the people in our community fall into, you know, in terms of violence, in terms of drug or alcohol addiction. Like, but if we strip that away, like if we took that away and we just looked at how powerful we were, you know what I mean? If we just took a moment to recognize collectively the difference we could make, what could we do? You know what I mean? But we don't. And as a result, we have all of these issues in our community. And I just wanted to, you know, make that abundantly clear, kind of, you know, in certain ways. And that was just a paragraph where I just wanted to make it plain. I didn't want to say anything subtly. I didn't want to hint at it. I just wanted to just say it. And that was kind of some of the inspiration in terms of writing that passage.
Thank you for sharing that. We do have one question before I go on that's in the chat, and it says, what time of day do you write, and what do you do when you get stuck? So that's from Jill, and maybe Jill is a writer too, if she's asking for some of that advice.
Well, Jill, I tend to write on the weekends. I have a full-time job, prayerfully not, you know, prayerfully I can be a full-time writer sooner rather than later, but I tend to write in the mornings on the weekends because that's when I tend to have the most time. And I put on some headphones, I listen to like some mellow music, and I try to write. In terms of what happens when I get stuck, really, I stop. Because for me, if I try to force myself to write something, A, it's not going to ring true. And B, I'm just going to have to change it all over again. So instead of doing that, if I kind of feel burned out, I put it aside. Because sometimes that's all you can do. I mean, you can try to force yourself to write something, but 9 times out of 10, you are going to go back and look at that and be like, that's trash. And you've just got to start over. So if I feel stuck or if I feel like I'm hitting a wall, I'll stop. I'll go get some ice cream, you know? I'll look at some television. I will listen to some music. I'll do something else to get my mind off of what it is I'm trying to write. And 9 times out of 10, then I'll be like, that's what I had. Okay, that's what was messing with me. This is what I have to do. And then I'll go back to it. So Jill, if you are a writer or if anybody is a writer and you're like just feeling stuck, stop. Don't force yourself to do something because, you know, the end result will just be like you're still staring at the screen looking like this. Or you write something and you'll feel like, I don't like what I wrote. You're going to have to change it anyway.
Right. Thank you for that very real advice. I'm not an author, but just even when I'm writing papers, I love that. Just stop. Go get some ice cream, come back. It'll come to you. Just trust the process.
Telling you, black walnut or strawberry.
Okay.
Get the pistachio. If you got the pistachio, get the pistachio. If you like cookies, eat cookies. It's a pandemic. Don't worry about it. Ain't nobody caring about what you look like or what pounds you get. Don't worry about it.
I agree. Is the sad thing is I don't discriminate when it comes to sweets, so I eat it all. So that is some great advice. I could appreciate that advice.
Yeah, if I didn't have stairs in my house, I would not be sitting in this chair. That's all I got to say about that.
So Jill, thank you. I hope that was helpful. I know it helped me. And so one of the things that I'm wondering, I know that without spoiling the novel, I'm so glad someone said that they hadn't read it because I was gonna just go in like, well, what happened with that? But I feel like at the end, like, do you think there's gonna be another part to this, or are you just is this a one and done, or is that something you can't talk about? I don't know. I'm just curious.
So I can absolutely talk about this. So my next book was purchased by Parker Hopper Collins, and
Great.
yes, and it's called Becoming Sarah King. So we're going to learn a little bit. Oh, girl, you just rear back in your chair. So we're going to be learning about what happened to Sarah during those times in Memphis, Tennessee.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's going to be probably a novel that you guys are gonna be like, I love you, but I hate you so much, and that's fine. I'm ready for it. It should be coming out in 2022. I believe this.
Oh, we gotta wait that long?
Yeah. So it was just announced last week, I believe. So yeah, so I will be coming out with the next novel, Becoming Sarah King. I never really intended for this to become a series, but I
Mhm.
was writing a specific scene with Sarah in it towards the end. I knew that that was going to be the next story that I was going to write. I feel like the story has about 4 books. Like the series has about 4 books,
Mm.
and after that, I'm done with the Saving the King series. After like I think the 4 books, because I don't want to have like this whole like misery thing, which is like I'm your number one fan, and it's like I'm not doing all of that. Like 4 books, I think, and we'll learn all we need to know. But I'll become a Sarah King. That'll be coming out in summer, I believe, of 2022. So really
Oh,
excited about that.
that is awesome. I will definitely be looking for that. So you know you're on my favorite authors list now because I love this book and I'm like, oh, I hope she's going to keep writing. So
Oh,
I'm
absolutely.
glad that there's a whole series and not even necessarily just with this series, but I'm excited that some more things to look forward to in terms of adding to my reading list because I love reading and just as an escape, but I just really connected with a lot in this book. So thank you for sharing that. I'm excited about that. So we have a few more questions in the chat that I just want to address. When you write, do you have an intended audience in mind? And that's from Jolene.
No, I don't. I literally just write to write. I don't have an intended audience in mind because you never know who's gonna pick up your book. You know what I mean? So when I write, I just want the story to be and the themes to be as universal as possible. I want to reach as many people as I can because I feel that books many times, even though they have a certain genre or niche, that's how I pronounce niche. I don't say niche, I say niche because I'm fancy. Um, I just feel that even if it's a certain genre, there's still themes and things that we can all adhere to and read. You know what I mean? And so no, I don't feel that there's a need to because you never know who's going to pick up your book, and I don't want to categorize or put myself in a box. And you shouldn't put your
Absolutely.
reading in a box. Just explore and see what it is that you like.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. So hopefully that helped. And then Jennifer asked about more books in the work, and you really addressed that question for us already. And Daniel dropped the link. If you have not ordered the book, you need to get it so I can talk about it a little bit more. Because I don't want to be the person that spoils it for you. And you're like, oh, I don't want to read it. But one of the questions that I'm wondering as you're talking about your experiences in writing, what advice, I mean, most of the people on this evening are educators. We may have other people here as well. And I think all of us like have a little author in us that we, want to explore something. What advice would you give an aspiring author who works full time, such as yourself, in terms of getting out this novel that might be deep within that they need to write?
Yeah. First of all, get it in your mindset that there's nothing aspiring about you, that you are an author, you are a writer. Okay, so what? Your book hasn't been published, so you still wrote a book. So kind of get it out of your mindset that, and also that I need to write a book to be a writer. I need to have a certain criteria. There's like this certain criteria. I don't like when people say like I'm an aspiring author, I'm an aspiring writer. No, you are an author, you are a writer. And I would say whatever story it is that you want to tell it without regard for the market or what you think people are going to want to read, or what you think an agent would want, or what you would want like an editor to buy. Just write your story. When I started writing this in 2012, I really wasn't planning on having this published and getting a literary agent. I didn't even know what the process was. I just wanted to write a book. And I wrote whenever I had time. My mom is a retired educator of over 30 years. I know how hard it is. You know, I tried teaching for a summer. I said, nope, not for me, because it was not for me. So I understand how hard it is for, I do understand how hard it is for educators. So write when you have the time. And if you feel like, you want to get in a writing group, get in a writing group. I don't really read craft books, but I mean, all teachers do is like research. So if you feel like that's something you need to do it. Whatever your path is, whatever you feel will help you become a better writer, do that. I mean, it's up to you. I mean, that's the thing. Like, this journey, my journey is as unique to myself as it is to, another writer and another writer. So, get it in your head that you're a writer, number one. Don't write for the market, write for yourself, number two. And number three, just like know where the cookies are when you need that sugar rush. And that's about it.
I love that advice. I hope someone jotted that down because I'm gonna need that, especially just writing regular papers. But one of the things I'm wondering, so of course, obviously, we're in a pandemic. I hate to state the obvious. However, just thinking about your novel, because it was released, I believe, was it earlier this year?
It was in June.
Oh, yeah. So really recently in June. So like right in smack in the middle of the pandemic. And I'm wondering, like, were you a little nervous about it being released during this time? For me, it's the perfect reading time, but I'm just saying, as an author with your first book out, it's a pandemic or dual pandemics going on here. Just wondering what your experience was or is, because you're still on the tour, virtual tour.
Truth be told, was I nervous? I think I was like kind of I was disappointed in the fact that I wouldn't get some of the normal experiences that other writers would get. So like I didn't have like, book launch party in a bookstore with friends and family and all of that. And once I got out of myself and out of my emotions, I recognized the benefits of it, because I can do so many author events that I wouldn't have been able to do otherwise. I work from home, so it's literally I can close my book, or close my work laptop and then get on this laptop and talk to wonderful people such as yourself. So I recognize the benefits of what it is, in terms of like marketing and publicity for the book. And in terms of the experience, it still ended up being this really great, awesome experience. It's something that I get to tell my kids about whenever I decide to have the little buggers. And just, I mean, it taught me also, like how to seriously readjust your perspectives or what your goals are, what you think your goals should be. I was nervous. Then I saw my sales numbers and I wasn't nervous anymore. I was like, oh, okay. Whew, thank you, God. Okay, we good. Humble brag. So I was just, at first I was kind of nervous and disappointed, but once I readjusted my point of view and didn't focus so much inwardly as opposed to like what was going on outwardly, I just said, thank you, Jesus, and I kept it.
Yeah, and I'm a believer that things happen when they're supposed to happen. And so I'm really happy that you're experiencing success with your novel. So thank you for sharing that experience. So we do have a couple of more questions. Let's see. So when writing about your own life, do you think people should hold back their feelings to spare others? And that's from Patricia.
Okay, I'm going to say this with all due respect and candor. Hell no. Why?
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because if you start pulling punches, you're not going to be able to fully hit, the character arc you need to hit, the emotional arcs that you need to hit. You don't pull punches for other people. Now, I'm not talking about, being overtly petty or just, being mean or cruel. But if something happened and you want to explore that in your book, do it. Might it hurt some feelings? It might. Oh well. It's your idea of, it's your belief of your experience and what happened. Other people's belief of an experience can differ. You know what I mean? At the very least, it perhaps can open up a conversation and a dialogue between perhaps you and this person who might have felt like wrong. But at the same time, if you want to pull your punches to spare somebody else's feelings, you're not going to wind up with a product that you probably would want. So, I mean, did I think about, Jackson Potter is solely based on my father and he might be pissed off. Yeah, for 1.1 second. And then I remember I'm a 40-year-old woman paying my own bills. What's he getting ready to do? Put me on punishment? And, so it's kind of like you have to look at what's best for you emotionally, artistically, creatively, and then go based off of that. And just, as long as there isn't any overt malice, you should be fine. You can sleep at night. Trust me. I do it all the time.
So I just heard a little Layla come out in you right now when you just said, I'm 40, I pay my own bills, and just that independence.
That is true. I mean, Layla was based on me. Like that was.
Yes, I just heard her because that's exactly who I envisioned.
Yeah, my aunt who does my hair she was doing my hair like I think like Thursday before last, and she was just like, "You was Layla, wasn't you? Because I just heard you every single time she was talking." I'm like, "Yeah, that was obvious. Yeah, that was me. Sorry."
Made it real, authentic. Who knows how to write you better than you?
Exactly. You know what I mean? So it's
absolutely. So we have one more question that we'll take that's in the chat already before I thank you, because it's 6:21 and I know that there are some wrap up things that we need to do. But this question is, and this is from Jill, have you seen anyone outdoors reading your book and did you go up to them?
No, I haven't seen anybody read my book, but I've gotten a lot of emails and direct messages from people who read my book, who said they've appreciated the book, and that always makes me so happy. It definitely brings a smile to my face. My dad saw somebody who was reading the book on the bus, and then the guy who read the book happened to also see me on television when I was doing an interview on TV, and he was talking to my dad about me, and my dad was, just kind of being like, "Well, that's my daughter,
right,
what I mean?" So, so he's sitting up there like with his chest all puffed up, and I'm like, "You realize I got no writing talent from you? That's from mom's side of the family, but go ahead, pops, and just sit up there. I taught her everything she knew." I'm like, "Yeah, what is the present participle and the past participle? Like, what is the difference? What is the difference, Pops?" And he couldn't tell you, but I love my dad. He's great.
Well, I just want to say this was an amazing experience. I'm so happy to have had a chance to talk with you. I know we emailed back and forth a little bit, but it's so nice to put a voice and a face together. And if we were in person, I would ask for a selfie, but we're not. But can I take a picture of us?
Yes, absolutely, LaTasha.
Yeah, because I gotta post it, make my friends jealous. Like, look who I met. Because you're celebrity status now. So I'm gonna
okay, girl. Like, all right, girl. Absolutely.
You're on 3. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. So thank you so much, Catherine. I appreciate you, and I look forward, as I know many of us look forward to what's to come. And if you haven't read her book, you have to read it and then call me so we could talk about it, because I want to talk some more. But I'll turn it over at this time to one of the access leaders to take us out, or to Daniel. take us home. Thank you, Catherine.
LaTasha,